My name is Chinwe. I work with a market research firm. I'm here to talk about my fibroid journey, my testimony actually, treatments, recovery, the success story. All right, when I first discovered I had fibroid, that was in 2015. And that month, suddenly my flow was extremely high. I didn't know what to do. I had to go meet my gynae and this is what I'm experiencing. He gave me some drugs. He said, use it. It will help the flow. Then you come and do a scan. Let's know what the problem is. And after that, I went back and I was heartbroken. He said, ma'am, you have fibroids. I said, no, that it's not life-threatening. Not that it's not life-threatening, but it's I shouldn't be scared. But the only thing is, if I'm bleeding that much is because of the placement. I was like, okay, so what next, operation? He said, yes, but he scared me. He said, where it was placed, it's like a 50-50 thing, and I was scared. He said it's a place where if one isn't careful, could affect the womb. And at that point, I said, no to operation. And I went for herbs, people saying they've used herbs, it worked for them, it shrunk or it dropped or it fell off. So I did herbs. Since the doctor said it was a 50-50 thing, I was scared. So I started doing that. Initially, I felt this relief, but suddenly it came back, the bleeding, heavy bleeding, prolonged bleeding, it stretched. Normally, I have my 7 days period, but it stretched on to 8 days, 9 days, 14 days, and I would bleed so heavily. And that was from 2015. Then that should be 2018, I guess. The last time I went to the hospital, I was ill. So normally when I go, I do my full blood count. And the doctor called me and said, madam, your blood count's 20. I was like, oh, he said yes. That if you come back here again and I say 820, I'm going to place on admission. I was like, okay. So, and I noticed I was always getting weak. I was always getting tired. I couldn't do lots of things. I was always skeptical. I was always having both my pads, my cotton wool, extra panties, always having water. I couldn't do exercises. In fact, whenever I was on, sometimes I'll ask myself, am I going to die this way? Where I was pouring out, so that was what I used to think. And at that point, I couldn't do much. I couldn't talk to people that much. I couldn't tell people what I was going through. I couldn't tell people what I was actually going through. I was struggling to do my work because, like I said, I work in a research firm and I'm in the client service. So I had to do lots of reportings and all. It was always affecting me when I had to work. That's how much it's affected me. Then after I got married by 2019, it's like it said, okay, you're married, now let's get worse. It became worse. And by 2021, right? Or was it 2021, 2022? 2021 at first, the first time I realized how bad my blood count was when I went for my blood count and I was told it was a 14.9. And the doctors there forgot actually at that point that they were doctors and were like, okay, what should she use? There is this vegetable she could use. There is this herb she could use. There is this drugs she could use. They were saying all sorts because I refused a blood transfusion. And they were telling me I needed a blood transfusion, like 4 pints of blood at that point, that I was pretty bad. And they didn't know how I walked to the hospital that day. I refused. I stayed off work for about 10 days. I had to recuperate. I had to build up my blood level again. I told my boss. My boss was scared. He asked what happened, even though he's not Nigerian, but he understood. I had told him I had fibroids. I told him my symptoms. So sometimes I could call him, sir, I can't make it to work today. He was like, okay, take rest. Sometimes I'll call him, sir, I'm coming late. Sometimes I'll like, sir, the pain is terrible. I need to take some drugs first. I resumed 9 o'clock, but I found myself going to work 10, 11. He understood, but he didn't say much. So that day, I had to take 10 days after I had to recuperate for 10 days to build up my blood to a point. And I told him that this was the reason. He said, okay. He then told me that his wife had these symptoms some time ago. So that's why he understood what I was going through. And it happened, the constant flow, using all sorts of things to try to see if I could cop the whole fibroid stuff. Until last year, when it went down to 14.4%, my PCV went down to 14.4, and the doctor called me, almost kneeling down, begging me, and said, madam, please, your life is at stake right now. The way you're going, it's either heart attack or a stroke, that you are way too low. In fact, you're seriously anemic. And my witnesses in marriage, I had to call her. I told her, look, madam, this is it. Because I needed help at that point for maybe who to run around, look for money for operation. I told her, I've been scared all my life, but right now I've been told that my life is at risk here and I need to go do an operation. After I told her, I said, she knew about it, but she knew that's why I couldn't walk that much. Then I called her. That was last year in May. So I spoke to her. I told her that this is it. This is how low I was, 14.4. She screamed. I said yes, that I need to do an operation, and they begged me that it's urgent. It's very life-threatening. So 2 weeks after, she sent me a message on my WhatsApp. She said, look, I just saw this. I don't need it, but I think you do. That Access Bank is trying to sponsor a woman. I was like, oh, at that point, my heart sank. She said, well, that's the truth. It's one woman. You could be that woman. I was like, okay. She said, so just pray about it. Tell God to touch you. Tell God to help you so that you could be that woman. And I took my chance. I called my husband. I told him about it. I said, look, we're going to prayerfully do this. And I told my sister. She said, so I had started writing out something. She said, sister, no, I think you need to say how bad your condition is first. Talk about the fact that your age, you've advanced in age, that you're still looking for to have your own child, before you say everything about maybe why you're looking for this, and that you might not be able to afford to sponsor yourself that much for an operation. So the journey started there. My husband and I, we joined hands, we prayed, and I spoke to God. I talked to him. I said, Father, it's one woman. I can be that woman. I wrote the application and I sent it to Access, and we prayed so much about it. And why we did that mainly because most of the time, whenever I prayed about going for an operation in the past, all I kept telling me was, you don't need operation. I was like, okay. I want to go for an operation. I prayed, Father, please help me. I want to do an operation. And next, you don't need an operation. So I was worried and I was wondering. So when this came up, I was like, Father, you're really awesome. You said I didn't need an operation, and somehow, I might go through this, and I might not need to go through under the knife. I might not need to be cut open. And so I prayed and I hoped and I wished that this was how God wanted to answer my prayers. So when I submitted my application, I kept checking my mails, and when I was sent the mail by Access Bank, I called my husband. I was so excited. I was like, they've gotten back to me. He said, okay. So then next, I was contacted by the Fibroid Care Center at Nordica. So the doctor there called me. She introduced herself. So she wanted to find out if I had done a scan of this, and I told her no. So look, I should go do one, then send to her. So I did the scan. I sent to her. Then after that, she called again that they needed me at the center. So when I went to the center, they did a scan, took my details comprehensively. They asked every question they needed to find out about me when it came to health-wise, history with anything, family history, everything they needed to find out. So they asked me. So when I was done, they said, okay, that they will need me to, that I'll be sent to do an MRI. And after that, they'll let me know if I would be among those who would go further with the procedure. I was like, okay. I came back, I told my husband, there's going to be an MRI. He said, okay. So I went for the MRI and I met two other ladies and we kept talking. So we found out, okay, Victory and Tosin. So we were there and we kept talking. So we're like, okay. We found out that they've extended it to 3 women. We're like, wow, 3 women, not 1 anymore. We said yes. We're like, okay, do we know who else they've contacted, how they've contacted? We're speculating actually amongst ourselves. Were we the chosen ones? Were we not the chosen ones? We're not sure. Then I think one of us, is it Tosin, said, maybe also, maybe it's 3 of us. We're like, God, please let it be 3 of us. Let it be that we really wanted it, where we told ourselves our own short stories, how we've gone, where we've suffered because of the fibroid, so we told ourselves, we shared our own experiences amongst ourselves there. And after the MRI, we all went home. When the result was ready, I took it to Nordica, and they called me again for me to conduct some tests. They took my blood samples and all. So before they called me back, I told my witness, I said, this is it. She said, no way, that MRIs are expensive. For them to call you, for you to do an MRI, that, look, I am 70% sure that you'll be chosen. In fact, she was there shouting, thank God, thank God, thank God. I'm so happy for you. I said, well, yes, I'm happy, but let me not just say 100% that I'm chosen. She said, look, forget it. That the expenses already is much, so definitely you're one of those who would be chosen. I went back to Nordica when they called for me to run some tests. They said, okay, the blood sample, that we detected something in your blood. And my face fell, my heart sank. And I was like, okay, what is it? They said my platelet was high, incredibly high. And they needed me to see a hematologist, that they cannot go on with the process with me having that much, my template being that high. And I won't tell a lie, I was low. My spirit was very, very low. And I was like, why? What is all this? So I met a doctor. There was this family doctor of ours, and I reached out to him. He's a top consultant in Louth. So I met with him. I asked him if he knew a hematologist he could direct me to, that I needed to talk to one and see one it was urgently, So he didn't know how urgent it was. He was like, okay. Later he said he's in a meeting. Then I sent him a mail. I said, doctor, this is it. I'm supposed to be going for a procedure. I have fibroid. And this is it. This is what they've told me. They said my platelet is high. Immediately, he just said, no, this is the doctor, contact this man. And I did. I contacted the doctor. I showed him my results. And he said, madam, I need to see you immediately. This is extreme. The platelet is extremely high. The range is supposed to be like a 400. I was having 1,000 something. He said, this is extremely high. I need to see you immediately. I called my boss. I said, sir, I've been booked to see a hematologist. He said, why? I said, this is the condition. He said, okay, fine, go. So I went, he saw me, said he has to draw my bone marrow to conduct a test immediately, let him understand the reason. And I was like, okay, so he called them and they said, you're going to spend about 150 for the test. And I just said, why? He said, it's just normal tests. It's okay, but I need to understand the cause of these roots. We need to know why. Is it severe? Is it something that is leading to cancer or whatever? Because, it could be anything. So I prayed. I prayed so hard. I was so, I know that my worry made me even lean some more because I was so tired. I was so weak. I don't know how to explain it, and I was like, okay, fine. So after the test, he needed 10 days before the results came out. He called me. He said, thankfully, it's not severe. That for your platelet to be this high, something has triggered it. Because when he showed me the results, I saw that he did lots of results, those for leukemia and all that. I was like, did you think that maybe it was cancerous? He said, yeah. I could be. So I was like, okay, Father, thank you. So he said, so something triggered it, and what? And I said, I have fibroids. He said, oh, that I need to take care of it immediately. I said, yes. Then I had to ask him lots of questions. My field, I asked lots of questions. I had to ask him lots of questions. I was like, why I've been booked for a procedure, okay? But they've told me that my platelet being high has stopped this procedure. Why? Then he told me, he said, when people lie down, tendency of a clot is higher. That's why a lot of times when people have strokes, it's maybe from bed when they wake up and all that. So that since I'll be lying still for some time, the chances of a blood clot during that process is high. So they don't want to take such chances. So my platelet needs to drop to a point before I am okay to go for the process. Another journey started. I was placed on drugs. He increased the medication initially for the first 1 week. After that, I did another full blood count. It had dropped a little. The second week, he reduced the medication. And I took medication like that for almost a month before Nordica got back to me and said, look, they sounded almost impatient, sort of that, like, I needed to reach out. They wanted to reach out to me to know what's up, that others had done that they're waiting for me. And I said, I understand. And I really thanked them because it's not easy to, wait on someone like that. So I told them, okay, that I was going to get back to the doctor. They said, fine, no problem, that they were waiting for me. And I got back to the doctor. The doctor said, yes, that I was fit at least to that point for me to go for this procedure. So they sent the mail, the hematologist in Louth, he's a professor. He sent the later a mail to Nordica, that's the fibroid care center at Nordica, and told them that I was fit for them to go for the procedure before I was put for on. So I said thank you to Access Bank, because I found out that this was the very first time Access Bank is doing this. And I was so happy, and I was so touched that I was one of those who benefited from this. And I know that I am a whole lot better. I am well, I would say that. I'm a whole lot better because of Access Bank. And I say thank you very much for this initiative. It's a lovely story for me. It's something that sometimes when I think about it, I still cry. When I talk about it, sometimes I still cry. I'm so happy because I didn't know life could be this sweet. Yeah, so thank you. Access Retail CSR Unit, now they have decided to bring out this initiative, this project 101, to reach out to more women. Access Bank, they've touched my life. They want to reach out to other women. I'm happy with that. They want to touch the lives of other women. And I hope that the way they've made my life beautiful, other women's lives too will be touched and it will be beautiful. And I wish other women to open up to it. They shouldn't be shy about it, because when you're shy and you can't tell your story and you can't get help, you die with that problem. So reach out. When you're reached out, or when you can, please do reach out. You can take advantage of this initiative so that your life too will be changed the way my life has been changed.